This story is titled, "A Week Before My Wedding. My adult daughter confessed she was pregnant with my fiance's baby. 2 years later, she is a single mom begging for help. I never thought I'd be one of those people posting on the internet about their life falling apart. But here I am. I'm 45, and what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life turned into an absolute nightmare. I don't even know where to start because every time I think about it, my chest feels like it's going to explode. I guess I'll start from the beginning and see if writing this out helps me make sense of it. I met Chris 3 years ago at work. We're in different departments, but our paths crossed during a team project. He was charming, funny, and just so attentive. After being married to my ex-husband David, who was emotionally distant and focused only on his career, Chris felt like a breath of fresh air. He was the kind of guy who would bring me coffee without me asking, or leave little notes on my desk to cheer me up during a stressful day. He made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. I'd been divorced for about 2 years when we started dating. My daughter, Emma, was in her final year of college at the time, and we'd always been close. I raised her mostly on my own, since David was always working. Emma was my rock during the tough times, and I always thought we had a special bond. I was a little nervous about how she'd react to me dating again, but she surprised me. She seemed genuinely happy for me, and even joked that I deserved a good guy like Chris. Fast forward a couple of years, and Chris proposed during a weekend getaway. It was the perfect moment. Sunset on the beach, waves crashing in the background, and a gorgeous ring that I didn't even know I wanted until I saw it. I said yes, and it felt like my life was finally coming together. After so many years of putting myself last, first for David's career and then for raising Emma, I felt like I was getting my second chance at happiness. Emma seemed thrilled when we told her about the engagement. She hugged me, said she couldn't wait to help with the wedding planning, and even offered to be my maid of honor. I was touched. She said she wanted the day to be perfect for me because I deserved it. I couldn't have been happier. Little did I know, everything was about to fall apart. Chris and Emma worked closely together on the wedding planning. I was swamped with a big project at work, so I left most of the details to them. They picked out flowers, met with vendors, and spent hours finalizing the guest list. I thought it was sweet that they got along so well. Chris even gave Emma career advice since she was just starting out in marketing, and she seemed to look up to him. I never saw any red flags. Not one. How blind could I have been? The day before the wedding, I was going over my vows at home when Emma showed up unannounced. She looked terrible, like she'd been crying for hours. My first thought was that she was overwhelmed with wedding stuff or maybe nervous about her speech. But no, it was so much worse. She sat me down on the couch and started sobbing. I tried to comfort her, but she pulled away and said, "Mom, I have to tell you something, and you're going to hate me." My stomach dropped. I don't know why, but I immediately knew it was bad, like life-altering bad. Then she said the words that shattered my entire world. "I'm pregnant, and it's Chris's baby." I froze. My brain just stopped working. For a second, I thought I misheard her. I asked her to repeat what she said, and she did, word for word. Then she added that they'd been seeing each other for 4 months. 4 months. While I was planning my wedding, my daughter was sleeping with my fiancé. I couldn't process it. It felt like the room was spinning. I thought I was going to throw up. I called Chris right then and there and told him to come home immediately. I didn't say why, but I think he knew from the tone of my voice. He showed up 15 minutes later, and those 15 minutes were the longest of my life. Emma sat there sobbing, and I just stared out the window, feeling like my whole world was collapsing. When Chris walked in and saw Emma crying, the first thing he said was, "You told her?" Just like that. No denial, no shock, just a calm acknowledgement like they were discussing a change in plans. That's when I lost it. I started screaming at him, asking how he could do this to me, how long it had been going on, and whether he ever really loved me, or if I was just a way to get close to Emma. He just stood there, looking guilty and pathetic. Chris tried to explain, saying he hadn't planned for this to happen, like that made it any better. He said he loved me when he proposed, but spending time with Emma made him realize he had feelings for her too. He claimed they'd tried to fight their feelings, but couldn't help falling in love. Emma just kept crying and saying she was sorry. Sorry? Sorry doesn't even begin to cover the damage they did. I threw them both out of my house that night. I didn't care where they went. I couldn't stand to look at either of them. After they left, I broke down. I called Lisa, who came over immediately. She stayed with me for days, helping me cancel the wedding and deal with the logistics. I couldn't even bring myself to explain the real reason to most people. I just told them that Chris and I realized we weren't right for each other. The worst part was the memories. Every little detail of the wedding planning was tainted. The flowers, the venue, the dress. I couldn't look at any of it without feeling sick. I burned my wedding dress in the backyard the night after they left. It sounds dramatic, but it felt cathartic. Like I was purging their betrayal from my life. I haven't spoken to either of them since that day. I blocked their numbers and deleted them from all my social media. I couldn't deal with the reminders. Emma was my daughter, my flesh and blood. I raised her, loved her, and sacrificed so much for her. And this is how she repaid me? As for Chris, I thought he was the love of my life, but he turned out to be the worst mistake I ever made. Right now, I'm just trying to pick up the pieces of my life and figure out how to move forward. It's hard though. Everywhere I turn, there's something that reminds me of them. I can't even go into my living room without picturing Emma sitting there, crying and confessing. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive them. Part of me doesn't want to. They destroyed everything I held dear, and I don't know if I'll ever be the same again. Anyway, thanks for reading if you've made it this far. I just needed to get this off my chest. Maybe writing it all out will help me figure out what to do next, because honestly, I feel completely lost. It's been a couple of weeks since everything fell apart, and I'm still struggling to wrap my head around it. Life doesn't feel real anymore. It's like I'm stuck in this limbo, where every day I wake up hoping it's all just been a horrible dream, but then the reality hits me like a freight train. Chris and Emma's betrayal is all I can think about. I can barely eat or sleep, and when I do, it's nightmares. I don't know how I'm supposed to move on from this. Canceling the wedding was a nightmare in itself. Do you know how embarrassing it is to have to call dozens of people and tell them the wedding is off without giving them the full story? I just couldn't bring myself to explain why, so I kept it vague. Chris and I realized we weren't right for each other, I told them. The pity in their voices was unbearable, and the whispers behind my back are even worse. I know people are gossiping. Some of my coworkers keep giving me these weird, sympathetic looks, and I overheard one of them speculating about what happened. It's humiliating. On top of that, the financial burden of canceling everything has been overwhelming. The venue refused to refund the deposit because it was such short notice. That's $15,000 gone. The caterers, the photographer, the florist, all of them are only willing to refund a fraction of what I paid. I even tried contacting Chris to see if he would help cover some of the costs, since he's equally responsible for this mess. But I couldn't bring myself to unblock him. Besides, I know he'd probably try to spin it like he was doing me a favor. No thanks. Lisa, my best friend, has been my lifeline through all of this. She's been staying with me on and off, helping me sort through the wreckage. She's the one who called some of the vendors and dealt with their attitudes when I couldn't. I'm not sure what I'd do without her. Every time I feel like I'm about to collapse, she reminds me that I'm stronger than this. But even with her support, I feel like a shell of who I used to be. The worst part is how empty the house feels. It's not like Chris had moved in yet, but his presence was everywhere. The pictures of us together, the little gifts he'd given me, the notes he used to leave for me. They're all reminders of the life I thought we were building together. I couldn't stand to look at any of it, so I boxed everything up and shoved it in the garage. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. Part of me wants to burn it all, but another part of me can't bring myself to let go completely. Maybe I'm still clinging to the idea of who I thought he was. As for Emma, I've completely cut her off. I blocked her number, her social media, everything. I know some people would say, but she's your daughter. And trust me, I've thought about that a lot. But the level of betrayal, I just can't. She wasn't some naive teenager who made a mistake. She's a grown woman who knew exactly what she was doing. She looked me in the eye every single day, knowing she was sleeping with the man I was going to marry. That kind of betrayal isn't something you can just forgive and forget. Emma's tried to contact me though. She's left voicemails, sent emails, even showed up at my door once. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The last thing she said before I slammed the door was, "Mom, I need you." Need me? After what she did? It's almost laughable. She didn't need me when she was sneaking around with Chris. She didn't need me when she was destroying my life. Now, because her world is falling apart, I'm supposed to drop everything and help her? I don't think so. And then there's the baby shower invitation. Oh, that was the cherry on top of this whole disaster. It was from Sarah, Chris's sister. She was supposed to be one of my bridesmaids. So when I saw the pink envelope with her handwriting, I thought maybe it was some sort of apology or kind words. Nope. It was an invitation to a baby shower for Emma. The audacity to invite me, calling me the grandmother-to-be, made my blood boil. The nerve of these people to think I'd want to celebrate the product of their betrayal. I called Sarah immediately. I wasn't going to let this slide. I asked her if she had lost her mind. She just kept saying things like, "But it's your grandchild, and family should stick together." Family? The word feels meaningless now. How is it sticking together when two people I trusted the most ripped my life apart? She even had the nerve to say, "True love doesn't follow rules." At that point, I just hung up. There was no reasoning with her. It doesn't stop there, though. David, my ex-husband, decided to weigh in too. Apparently, Emma went crying to him about how mean I was being. And of course, he had to chime in with his unsolicited opinions. This is the same man who was so emotionally absent during our marriage that Emma barely remembers him being around. And now he wants to lecture me about parenting? He had the audacity to say, "If you'd been more present, maybe she wouldn't have these issues." I reminded him that he chose his career over his family for 2 decades, and that he had no right to judge my parenting. That shut him up pretty quickly. Work has been brutal too. Chris works on the same floor, and even though I requested to be moved to another department, I still see him in passing sometimes. The first time it happened, I thought I was going to throw up. He just gave me this awkward nod, like we were acquaintances or something. How does he act like nothing happened? It makes my skin crawl. The whispers from coworkers don't help either. Everyone knows something happened. They just don't know what. I can feel the judgment every time I walk into the break room. I've been trying to focus on work to distract myself, but it's hard. My concentration is shot, and I find myself zoning out constantly. I've even started taking walks during my lunch break just to avoid running into Chris or anyone else who might ask questions. The solitude helps a little, but it's not enough to keep the intrusive thoughts at bay. Right now, I don't know what the future holds. I've thought about moving, selling the house and starting fresh somewhere new. But I've lived here for so long that the thought of leaving feels overwhelming. Plus, it's not just the house, it's the memories. This was supposed to be the place where I started my new life with Chris. Instead, it's just a constant reminder of what I've lost. Every day feels like a battle to get through. I know people say time heals all wounds, but this feels like it's going to leave a scar that will never fully fade. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust anyone again. How could I, after being betrayed by the 2 people I thought I could count on the most? For now, I'm just trying to take it one day at a time. It's all I can do. All right, everyone, before we dive into the update, I have a small request. We put a lot of effort into finding these incredible stories for you every single day, and your support means the world to us. If you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps us grow and allows us to continue bringing you more amazing stories. Thank you. Now, let's move to the update. Update 1 point. It's been a few months since everything happened, and I thought I had hit rock bottom. Turns out, I was wrong. I'm back here because the situation has somehow gotten even more insane. Just when I thought I had all the answers, the universe decided to throw me another curveball. This time, it came in the form of a random message from someone named Rachel. I didn't recognize her name at first, but she introduced herself as Emma's friend from college. She said she had something important to tell me about Emma and Chris, and while I was hesitant to even respond, something in her message seemed urgent. We agreed to meet for coffee, and I honestly didn't know what to expect. Was this someone looking to stir the pot? Or was it legit? Rachel looked nervous when we sat down, and her first words were, "I've been debating whether to tell you this for months." My heart started racing because, after everything I've been through, I didn't think I could handle more drama. But what she told me completely blindsided me. Rachel revealed that Emma had been dating someone else, Alex, before she started seeing Chris. Apparently, they'd been together for about 6 months, and Emma suspected she was pregnant with Alex's baby even before Chris was in the picture. My stomach dropped. Rachel then showed me screenshots of text conversations between her and Emma. In those messages, Emma admitted that she'd calculated the dates and knew the baby couldn't possibly be Chris's. But instead of coming clean, she saw an opportunity. Emma told Rachel she had started feeling something for Chris during the wedding planning and thought he would be a better provider than Alex, who was struggling with his career. She confessed to deliberately getting closer to Chris, knowing he was attracted to her. Reading those messages made me feel like I was in an alternate universe. My daughter, who I thought was naive and caught up in a mistake, had actually calculated every step of this betrayal. It got worse. Emma had apparently used the pregnancy as a way to secure Chris, thinking he'd leave me for her, and they'd build this perfect little family together. She never intended for me to find out before the wedding. Her plan was to keep up the facade until she could announce the pregnancy as Chris's after the fact. But when the guilt became too much for her to bear, she confessed, likely because the timing of the baby would eventually expose her lie. After hearing all of this, I didn't know whether to laugh, cry, or scream. Rachel seemed genuinely torn about telling me, but she said she felt like I deserved to know the truth. She had debated telling Chris herself, but was worried about the backlash. I thanked her for coming forward and left the cafe feeling completely numb. I didn't even know how to process this new information. All this time, I'd been blaming myself for being blind, for not seeing the signs. Now I realized I wasn't just dealing with betrayal. I was dealing with manipulation on a level I never thought Emma was capable of. That night, I made a decision. I created an anonymous email account and sent the screenshots to Chris. I didn't include any explanation or message, just the evidence. I didn't care how he reacted. He deserved to know the truth. If he wanted to continue his life with Emma after learning about her lies, that was on him. 2 days later, Emma showed up at my door. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was a mess. Her eyes were swollen, and she was visibly shaking. She asked if she could come in, but I stood in the doorway, blocking her. She started crying immediately and said, "Chris knows everything. Did you tell him?" I didn't answer, but the look on her face told me she already knew the answer. She said Chris had confronted her about the baby's paternity and demanded a DNA test. When she refused to take one immediately, he packed his things and left their apartment. Apparently, he's staying with a friend now and won't even talk to her until the test is done. Emma kept saying she never wanted things to get this messy, that she really loved Chris and wanted to build a life with him. I could barely stand to listen to her. I asked her if she remembered the day she told me about her affair. I reminded her how she had stood in that exact same spot, crying and begging for forgiveness. I told her that she had destroyed my life and that karma had finally caught up with her. She tried to defend herself, saying she was scared and confused and didn't know what to do. But to me, those are just excuses. She had plenty of chances to come clean, and she chose to lie instead. Before she left, she asked if I could forgive her. She even tried to guilt me by saying, "I just want my mom back." I told her I wasn't ready to forgive her, and honestly, I didn't know if I ever would be. She left in tears, and for a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But then I remembered everything she'd done, and that guilt disappeared. Later that week, I heard from Sarah, Chris's sister. She's usually so self-righteous, but this time she actually sounded worried. She told me that Chris had been drinking heavily since finding out the truth. Apparently, he's been spiraling, questioning everything about the relationship. She said he's not even sure if he wants to be involved with the baby, assuming it turns out to be his. I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt vindicated, but another part of me just felt sad. This entire situation is so messed up, and everyone involved is suffering because of Emma's lies. As for the paternity test, it's supposed to happen in the next few weeks. I'm not sure what the outcome will be, but at this point, I almost don't care. Whether the baby is Chris's or Alex's, it doesn't change the fact that Emma and Chris betrayed me in the worst possible way. Even if the baby isn't Chris's, I don't think I'll ever be able to look at my daughter the same way again. Right now, I'm just trying to take things day by day. Some days are better than others, but the weight of everything still hangs over me. I've started going to therapy, which has helped a little, but there's no quick fix for this kind of pain. Every time I think I've turned a corner, something new comes up and pulls me back into the mess. I don't know what's going to happen next. Maybe Chris will walk away for good, or maybe he'll stick around for the baby. Maybe Emma will finally take responsibility for her actions, or maybe she'll keep trying to justify them. All I know is that I need to keep my distance. I've spent too much time and energy on their chaos, and I need to focus on myself for once. If I thought I had reached my limit before, the last few weeks have shown me otherwise. It feels like every time I start to put one piece of my life back together, another part falls apart. After Chris demanded the paternity test, things between him and Emma completely unraveled. And of course, the fallout somehow landed back at my feet. It's like I'm stuck cleaning up a mess I didn't make. The paternity test confirmed what Rachel's screenshot suggested. Chris is not the father. The baby is Alex's. I wish I could say I was surprised, but honestly, at this point, nothing shocks me anymore. What did catch me off guard was how quickly everything fell apart for both Chris and Emma after the results came in. Chris completely broke down when he got the news. I didn't hear this from him directly, of course. I've kept him blocked and have no intention of ever speaking to him again. But Sarah, his sister, reached out to me, again, to share her concerns. She told me Chris left their apartment the same day he got the results and moved in with a mutual friend. Apparently, he's been drinking heavily and spiraling into depression. According to her, he started blaming himself for being blinded by love and is questioning every decision he's ever made. While part of me thinks he deserves to feel the consequences of his actions, another part of me feels a twinge of pity. He's finally experiencing a fraction of the betrayal and devastation I've been living with for months. As for Emma, the fallout has been even harsher. The paternity results set off a chain reaction in her life. Alex, the baby's biological father, was furious when he found out she had tried to pass off his child as someone else's. He demanded another DNA test to confirm the results, which only further humiliated Emma. From what I've heard, again through Rachel and mutual acquaintances, Alex has completely cut her off. He told everyone at their workplace about what she did, and the gossip spread like wildfire. Emma eventually quit her job because the tension became unbearable. She's been struggling to find stable work ever since. Emma's situation is even worse financially. Chris had been helping her with rent and expenses before the paternity results came out. Once he left, she was on her own. Her lease is ending soon, and she can't afford the rent increase. She's been staying with friends here and there, but she's running out of options. Last week, she showed up at my door, again, asking for help. When I opened the door, I barely recognized her. She looked worn down, like the weight of everything was finally catching up to her. She was holding her baby, a little boy she named Noah, and she broke down crying as soon as she saw me. She begged me to let her move in, just for a little while, until she could get back on her feet. She said she was sorry for everything she'd done, that she had learned her lesson, and that being a single mom had changed her. She said she needed my help and tried to guilt me by saying I was punishing Noah for her mistakes. I stood there listening to her, and all I felt was exhaustion. For months, I've been carrying the weight of her betrayal, Chris's lies, and the fallout of their choices. And now she wanted me to swoop in and save her? I told her no. I told her that while I felt bad for Noah, I couldn't just forget everything she'd done. She made her choices, and now she has to live with them. She started crying harder, calling me cruel and heartless. She said she didn't have anyone else to turn to. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I closed the door. I couldn't bring myself to let her back in, not after everything. After she left, I sat in my living room feeling a mixture of relief and guilt. Did I do the right thing? Was I being too harsh? Replayed the past months in my head, the lies, the betrayal, the audacity of her asking for forgiveness when she hadn't even fully owned up to what she'd done. Every time I thought about letting her move in, I remembered how she'd stood in that same spot months ago, confessing her affair with Chris while pretending she was sorry. I remembered how she had lied to me, manipulated Chris, and torn my life apart. And then I knew I'd made the right choice. Forgiveness is one thing, but letting her back into my life is another.